All right, welcome back, and now we're going to do multiplying negative powers of 10. So this is our video of multiplying powers of 10, part 2. Go to the next page. All right, so when we're multiplying negative powers of 10, we're going to look at just like we did with our positive powers of 10. So in this case, if we have 15 times 1/10, it would like be taking our 15th. And 1/10, remember, we talked about as being 1 over 10, or that every time you move to the right, you go 10 times smaller. And 1/10 is 10 times smaller, so our 1.5 we would move over, and it would now be 1.5. So if we have 5 times 1/10, we have 1.5. 5 times 100th is the same as 0.1 times 0.1, or 1/10 times 1/10. And so we are going 2 tens smaller. So we start with our 15. We would go 1, 2 times smaller. And so our answer would be 0.15. And once again, if we start with our 15, and we have to 1,000th, which is 0.1 times 0.1 times 0.1. We're going 3 times smaller. So we go 1, 2, 3, and my 1 doesn't want to follow. 1, 2, 3. Add our 0, and in this case, we have 0.015. So essentially, when we're talking about going to the 10th place, or going 10 times smaller, we're doing the exact opposite of our positive powers of 10. And so if we look at this one, we have 1/10 is equal 10 to the negative first power. 100th, 10 to the negative 2. So just like with our positive powers of 10, where 10 to the third equals 1,000, we have 10 to the third equaling 1,000th. And so here we have that. So instead of saying 15 times 1/10, we would say 15 times 10 to the negative 1. And instead of 15 times 100th, it is 15 times 10 to the negative 2. And instead of 15 times 1,000th, it is 15 times 10 to the negative third power. So let's look at it here. So we're going to be multiplying negative powers of 10. And here we have our first one, 28 times 10 to the negative fourth power. So let's take our 28 and start right there. And when we're going our negative, we're going to do the opposite of as our positive. In our positive, we went 10 times bigger. Negative, we're going to go 10 times smaller, 4 times. And it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we fill in with our placeholder. And we're going to put 1 right here. And of course, we would have our decimal. So when we have 28 times 10 to the negative fourth power, we have 28 10,000ths. Okay, so let's try another one here. We're going to take 168, so we're starting with 168, and we're doing 10 to the negative sixth power. So we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fill in our 0 placeholders. And we have 168 100,000ths. So if we have 168 times 10 to the negative sixth power, it is, so we have our negative 6, 168 100,000ths. And let's do a couple more. And if we have 9, so here we just have our single digit in the ones place, to the negative third power, we would go 1, 2, 3, fill in our 0 placeholders, put our decimal in place, and we have 9 thousandths. And our last one we're going to do would be 1,897 times 10 to the negative 1, and that means we would just go back 1, put our decimal in, and we have 189.7. So very similar to our positive powers of 10, except we're reversing it. We're going negative. All right, so let's look at it here. Here we have our decimal numbers, and we do the same thing. you line up your decimal where it belongs. 10 to the negative fourth, we would go 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. And fill in our zeros. And our answer is 1,400 thousandths. So 1.4, or 1 and 4 tenths, times 10 to the negative fourth power gives us 4 tens smaller. And so we get that. Let's say if we take 5.68, same thing, you put your decimal where it is. Here we have 10 to the negative 2 power. 1, 2. Put our 0 placeholders in. Put our decimal in. And we have 568 10,000ths. All right, let's do one more, or a couple more. Here we have just 9 tenths. So we already have a number that's smaller than 1. We're doing it times 10s to the negative 3. We'd go 1, 2, 3. Fill in our 0 placeholders. And we have 9 10,000ths. We got to put our decimal in there. And let's do our final one. Here we have 40 and 37 hundredths times 10 to the negative 1. We would just shift 1 place, put our decimal in, and we now have 4 and 37 thousandths. And we can look at it just like we did with our multiplying negative powers of 10. When we did positive powers of 10, we moved our decimal place to the right. With negative, we're going to move our decimal place to the left. So here, if we have 28 times 10 to the negative fourth power, this negative 4 tells us we need to move it to the left 4 times. My stuff doesn't want to show up. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4 places over, and that is where we put our decimal. It's really important to put that decimal in there at the end of that. And our answer is 0 and 28 10,000ths. Here we have 168 times 10 to the negative 6th, and we have negative 6, so we know we're going to go to the left 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we want to put our decimal place in right away so we don't forget it. Put our 0 placeholders in, and we have 168 hundred thousandths. And the same with our 9. We're going to go back our 3 places, put our decimal in right away. It's really important to put that decimal in. You don't want to forget that decimal and put it in the wrong spot because that throws your whole number off. And we have 9 thousandths. Okay, we'll do the same thing when we have decimals. We just start where the decimal is at. So if I have 1.4 times 10 to the negative fourth, 2, 3, 4 places over, put my decimal in, put my zeros in, and I have my answer. 5 and 68 hundredths times 10 to the negative 6. There's my key to go back 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. Put my decimal in. Put my 0 placeholders in. Just like that. And then I have 9 tenths times 10 to the negative 3. I'm going to move my decimal over to the left 3 places. Put my decimal in. Fill in my zeros. And I have my answer. Okay? Why don't you go ahead and try these? When you are finished, pause the video, give these a try, and then let's check and see how you did. Okay, here we go. We have 18 and 10 to the negative 5th power. I'm going to start with my 18. My decimal's there. I'm going to go back 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put my decimal, fill my zeros in. This one I have 16.7 times 10 to the negative second power. Move my decimal 2 places. And on this one, my place is right before that one, so I don't need to add any zeros before it. I have 9,824, and my decimal would be there. I'm doing 10 to the negative 8th power, so I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put my decimal in, put my zero placeholders in. And here I have 8 hundredths times 10 to the negative 1. Move that decimal place 1. And I have now 8 thousandths. So that is how you would do multiplying negative powers of 10. If you had any problems with that, please go back and review the lesson. And what you need to do is this. You might need to review the video a few times if you have any questions. What I want you to do is come up with 1 or 2 tricks you can use when multiplying positive and negative powers of 10 to share with the class. And don't forget to take the quiz.